Red State Talk Radio. Talk radio the way the Founding Fathers would have done it.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Well, good morning, Red State Talk Radio. This is Rick Robinson. I'm the host of America Off the Rails. We'll be back with the official beginning of the show here in just a moment. I just wanted to take a second and say good morning to all of you. I hope you're having a great weekend. Now that we're about halfway through it, let's slow down, savor today a little bit, because tomorrow it all starts over. All right, so we've got a lot we're going to talk about today. I'm just going to give you a little bit of a recap, and then we will start the official beginning of the show here in just a couple minutes. Now, basically, what we're going to be talking about today are three different topics that all kind of intertwine together. We're going to talk about the fact that, in my estimation, this country's race relations are back to basically pre-1969. We're going to talk about the fact that colleges are no longer places where you can have free thought and be challenged. You now have to be part of the group, a part of the collective, or you are shunned. And we're also going to talk about the San Bernardino shooting, the fact that there are college professors that are calling for their students to find ways to attack and remove both the NRA and the Second Amendment, as well as find ways to ban guns, which again ties all of this together, because I submit to you today that America is no longer the place that we once knew. She has become a crazy place where you're no longer allowed to think what you want to think or believe what you want to believe. You have to go along with the group. It's happening more and more and more and more in every single level of our society. All right. So here in just a second, we will be right back with America Off the Rails. I'm your host, Rick Robinson. Don't go away.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Fully understand what we've asked of our military service members or their families, asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to keep them secure for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Join us at findwwp.org.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention please? America Off the Rails has been declared a conservatives-only safe zone. Only conservatives allowed from this point forward. Any liberal, socialist, butthurt, hippie, tree huggers, please exit the facility immediately. Again, attention please. America Off the Rails is now designated as a conservative safe zone only. All butthurt, tree-hugging, hippie, free-to-be, you and me types exit the facility immediately. Thank you.
We will keep this promise to the American people. If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor, period. If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan, period.
This is the most transparent administration in history. Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. What difference at this point does it make?
If you got a business, you didn't build that.
Welcome to the face. Welcome to the face of the new democracy. Don't expect us to admit a mistake. We're paying off election debts to those who will take. Attorney General's lying even while
it's time to hear the truth about America's biggest challenges. You're listening to America Off the Rails with your host, Rick Robinson.
Well, that's right, folks. This is America Off the Rails. I'm your host, Rick Robinson. It is Sunday, December the 6th, 2015, and it's just a few minutes past the hour of 6 Eastern, right here on Red State Talk Radio. Now, this may actually wind up being a 2-part episode. I don't know if we'll get through all the content for the day, because I just realized that by the time we do the standard opening and everything else, we're already well within the show clock here at this point. So this may actually get continued until next Sunday, so I hope you'll stay tuned for that as well. But we're going to start in with the topics that I had outlined for you before we went to our first official break. And those are the following, in case you're just now tuning in. Race relations in this country. We were supposed to have a president who was supposed to put all of that to bed. Instead, we are back to pre-1969 race relations, in my estimation, and I'll give you some information as to why. We're gonna lay out the case that college campuses are no longer the places where folks are engaged or challenged or made to think. It's places where they're indoctrinated. And I have clips to support that as well as my own opinions. Then also, of course, if we have time, we will get to some of the San Bernardino stuff. This means that we may actually go through this really quickly this episode and then drill down a little further next week. Since I'm sure this will all still be a hot topic by then anyway, because Lord knows the FBI and everybody else are miles behind the rest of you that have 2 brain cells to rub together, because they just decided on Friday that this was terrorism. So nice to know they finally caught up with the rest of us. All right, so let's go ahead and start from the beginning here. Simple fact of the matter is we are living in a time that parallels, if not rivals, pre-1969 race relations in this country. I submit to you that as of right now today, if Martin Luther King were alive, he would be looking at the world before us today and shaking his head in disbelief. I also submit to you the fact that he's not alive probably means he's spinning in his grave. And I'm going to show you a couple of reasons as to why. One of them actually revolves around a clip that I was able to find. This happened in Mizzou, the university where everybody was all freaking out. We need African-American safe spaces so we can educate people, make this happen, make this happen. This was one of the protest rallies where they had been shouting down the administration to try to make sure these type of things happen. And this was another person of another ethnic group who tried to point out something, and she was completely shouted down. So let's give this a listen.
Black people can be racist. White people, sorry. Oh no. I will make it. I will drag this time. Sorry. I just mean that we have to look people individually. There are people, sorry, maybe I don't articulate myself good enough. There are good people, and there are people who are not that embracing to other cultures, who may not live up to standards of proper behaviors. But we have to look through hearts. We have to look into this person and see what she or he really is. Look from the heart, the action, not the race.
Okay. I want to bring it back to what Jency said, and that was driving back the attention to the person, and that is we want a commitment to the temporary and the permanent space right now.
So we can educate people. They need to learn about it.
All right, so you heard it right there at the end. This was all about there was this group on the campus that had decided that they needed to have their own safe spaces so they could educate people. Back in the 1950s and the 1960s, they had a word for safe spaces. It was called segregation. So basically, what this group is telling us is that, yes, they've been integrated now for, 40, 50-ish years? Now, all of a sudden, they don't want to be integrated anymore. I mean, I'm telling you, take a look around at everything that's going on. You just had someone of Asian descent, another minority group, try to point out that black people could be racist, and they shouted her down. Do you know why they shouted her down? Because in the liberal mindset, you can't be racist unless you have authority. Unless you've had some sort of power or authority over a secondary group, you cannot be racist. And that cannot be any farther from the truth. I submit to you, and I say this from personal experience, everyone has racism. I understand it's taught, and that we don't learn it on our own, but the simple fact of the matter is everybody's exposed to it. And everybody has this little voice in their head that comes on every once in a while that most of us that are rational have to shout down and say, look, no, they're people just like me. I'm not going to treat them any differently. The problem is we have way too many people that listen to those voices, and I don't care what the color of their skin is on the outside. They listen to those voices, and they decide that either they've been mistreated, so now it's their turn to mistreat somebody else, or that they've always been better than the groups that are around them, and therefore they need to assert their dominance. And I don't know which direction the African-American community is going at this point, because it seems like it's pretty well splintered. But the simple fact of the matter is we have groups that are attacking it from all of those particular angles. Some of them are starting to espouse black supremacy. Some of them are starting to espouse the fact that their ancestors were so badly abused by white people that they don't feel safe in this country, so they need safe spaces. Look, I don't understand when we turned into namby-pamby. I don't know a nice way to put this. Pansies, I guess, is the best word that I could use for it. I don't understand what's happened in this country. We used to be the folks that got things done. Now we sit around and gripe because the government doesn't do them for us. We used to be the folks that saw a problem and we tried to get it fixed. And now all we do is sit around and gripe and moan and complain. It doesn't make any sense to me. I am completely perplexed by the fact that we have an entire generation of people that are growing up, first of all, that just have no concept of the fact that, you know, the world is not a fair place. It's not a nice place. You have to come to terms with that if you're going to succeed in life. There's no way around it. You can be sheltered, you can be part of the participation trophy crowd until the day you die, but it's not going to matter because the simple fact of the matter is the world does not give you participation trophies. This is one of the things that we have done that is such a disservice to the children in this generation and the one coming behind it now, because we haven't taught them that it's okay to fail. Nobody's allowed to fail anymore. Even the banks are too big to fail. I mean, let that sink in for a second. Businesses aren't allowed to fail. Individuals aren't allowed to fail. Nobody can fail. Everybody gets a trophy no matter what. You can come in for 5 seconds, pick your nose on the ball field, and you get a trophy. Woohoo! I mean, come on. Look, I wasn't the best person in sports either. I really wasn't. I'm not going to lie. I tried every single one of them in grade school. I wasn't very good at any of them, but I still tried them because I needed to know. One that I enjoyed the most was probably basketball because I understood the principles even if sometimes I couldn't get my body to cooperate with me. Another one that I enjoyed was baseball because it was a slow enough pace that I could actually kind of pay attention to what was going on. Football, way too quick for me at the time. I like watching it now, but I didn't really enjoy playing it very much because it was just, there was 10 minutes of inactivity, 3 minutes of activity, and I'm just like, okay, I'm confused. But anyway, I digress. My point to all of this is we have taught an entire generation of people to demand safety among and above all else. This is a problem because the world is not a safe place. We're setting up people with false expectations. And it's now becoming literally apparent almost everywhere. As an example, continuing on with the same topic, this actually happened local to me. For those of you that may not know, I actually live and work out of Oklahoma. So this is a recent article that was put together, or a professor talking about a recent article that he put together in response to an incident at a Christian school here in Oklahoma recently. And I'm just going to let the whole clip play here, so bear with me for just a sec.
One thing I want to make clear before we get into several of the questions here, I'm writing this article as much to culture as I am to these kids. I'm confronting my own industry. I'm looking the academy in the eye. I'm looking the colleges and universities, my peers, in the eye, and I'm saying we've created this monster. We have created this problem. What we have right now is ideological fascism because of the terrible ideas we've been teaching for the last several decades. We don't have intellectual freedom any longer. We have ideological fascism, where if you don't agree, if you're not part of the group, if you don't share the agreed upon and the correct ideas, you will be expelled and you will be silenced. And that's the antithesis of the liberal arts academy. We've brought this on ourselves. Well, and that's, you can't make this up. You have a chapel service, a required chapel service at a Christian university, Oklahoma Wesleyan University, and one of our vice presidents delivers a beautiful homily on 1 Corinthians chapter 13, the quintessential love chapter of the Bible. Right. And it's not political. There's nothing in it that's controversial. There's no sarcasm in the sermon. And the student comes up afterwards and says, I feel uncomfortable with this. You've singled me out and you have singled my peers out. And he throws the victim card. This is This is a situation that is the poster child of those students or those people in our culture that want to claim that anytime they're uncomfortable, that they should be coddled. And frankly, like I say in my article, I am more interested in confronting your character than I am in coddling you in your sin and selfishness and your narcissism. College is not about being comfortable. College is about being confronted, being challenged, and being built up in character, not being enabled to continue to be immature and selfish in your thoughts and in your behavior.
All right, folks, so there you have it. A recent incident here in my home state where basically a college student reached out to a professor because after attending a required service in a Christian university, this person felt it necessary to point out that they felt they were being singled out and victimized. Here's my problem with all of this. This was a Christian university. You had to sign paperwork before you were allowed to attend there that indicated you did not have an issue with attending required services, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Now, all of a sudden, you want to speak up like you've got a problem. My other thing is did this person pay attention to the sermon at all? 1 Corinthians 13 is like the most benign chapter in the entire Bible. It outlines how we should treat each other, our family, our children, our spouses, and most of all, the world around us. And yet, somehow, this person felt like they were victimized and singled out. This is my point. College is no longer a place where you can go to be confronted with new ideals and have to make up your mind on your own. College is now a place where they basically charge you or your parents a fortune to tell you exactly what it is that you should think and how you should think it. And for those of you who don't believe me, I have a clip we'll be playing here in just a couple minutes when we come back from the break, because we're going to change gears to keep the same vein going about the college situation, but we're going to change the gears over into the recent issues in San Bernardino and a take of a certain college professor out that way and who he thinks they should blame and exactly what he tells all of the students in his class that they should do, even though I'm pretty sure he directly violated campus policy. But that didn't seem to bother this particular professor, who shall remain nameless because I don't want to give him any more fame than he deserves. But the simple fact of the matter is, folks, when it comes right down to it, this country is in trouble. If anything, and the world is right behind it, let's be honest. If anything, the last few days have taught me that nobody cares anymore what happens in this country. They only care about pushing a narrative. The gun grabber folks came out in droves, and I've got some clips we'll be playing when we come back from that as well. And this guy happens to be one of those gun grabber folks. But at this point, we really do need to take the break. We are nearing the top of the hour. This is Rick Robinson. I'm the host of America Off the Rails with you right now this morning, Sunday, on Red State Talk Radio. This show can be heard every Monday through Friday on K98Talk.com and .org. Hosted through the Spark Radio Network at 11 at night, 10 Eastern, and several other affiliates. So anytime you want to give us a shout out, you can always reach out to me at AOTR_host. And I will be right back after these commercial messages.
Red State Talk Radio. Talk radio the way the Founding Fathers would have done it.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
To get up to like $68,000, my heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They say saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
Hey folks, Slickery Trigger here. I'd like to take a minute to tell you about Rebel Road Tactical. As a defensive pistol instructor, I've had the opportunity to observe many different holster designs and configurations. And one thing is clear. Many of my students won't carry a pistol. Or worse, they'll carry one without a holster at all. Holster designers aren't making holsters for normal people. It seems that most holsters are either an expensive piece of gear designed for Rambo or a piece that doesn't fit or function the way real people need it to fit and function. So, like any good Texan, I decided to learn to form codex and design one myself, one that would fit the needs of average people. The result is the Rebel Road Tactical CRT Modular. The CRT stands for Carry, Range, and Training. Its thin and lightweight curved design minimizes printing and is adjustable to fit just right for superior comfort and function. Check us out after the show at rebelroadconcealed.blogspot.com.
Red State Talk Radio. Conservatism, Red State style.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention please? America Off the Rails has been declared a conservatives-only safe zone. Only conservatives allowed from this point forward. Any liberal, socialist, butthurt, hippie, tree huggers, please exit the facility immediately. Again, attention please. America Off the Rails.
All right, folks, we are back. We are live. We're into the last half of the show already. My, oh my, where does the time go? All right, so as promised, we're going to keep the college theme going, but change gears a little bit to talk more about what's been going on over in San Bernardino. You know, that place, California, the magical, mythical place where all the gun laws work and everybody's happy-go-lucky. Yeah, we'll get to that too. But anyway, so let me get this queued up real quick, and you will hear a UC professor basically violate, I'm sure, all kinds of campus policies in about a 3-minute-ish clip. So let's get this rolling, shall we?
San Bernardino, which must be making a lot of you sick and fearful and everything else. I shouldn't be going off on this because this doesn't have anything to do with gun control or the NRA, but it's perhaps worth saying because there's so many freshmen in the class. And I know that over time, many of you are going to want to get engaged in a cause. And if I were your age and knew what I think I know today, sometimes not very much, what I would do is probably jump on this gun issue. It is an impossible thing in this country. For reasons that just boggle my mind every time I think about it. I'll give you a couple of examples. We're in a situation where Australia had a situation like ours a number of years ago. And Australia said, look, we're just losing too many people like they're losing in the U.S. The numbers were much lower because Australia is so much smaller than the U.S. Australian government went out and bought guns from everybody. Now it is extremely difficult to buy a gun in Australia, and very few people get killed. You don't see the kind of thing happening like happened in San Bernardino yesterday, or has happened in so many places in this country. We seem to be getting about one of these mass killings, about every, 10 to 12 days. In fact, there was an article in the paper that said literally, and I'm not exaggerating, it said we've got one of these going on somewhere in the country of varying intensity every single day. 33,000 people a year are dying from gunshot wounds. Well, the big culprit is a couple things. It's the NRA, the National Rifle Association, which is enormously powerful in this country in a way that you and I can't imagine. And it all hinges on an argument that has never made any sense to me. What's the argument? The argument is, look, People don't kill because they've got a gun. They kill because they're unstable. There's something mentally wrong with them. But look, we're all sort of off the edge at some point, right? We don't know when we're going to fly off the edge. And what does the issue become? The issue becomes, do we have access to a gun, or an AK-47, or an automatic rifle? If we don't have access to the damn thing, we can't kill anybody. We might beat the out of them. We might cut them up with a knife, but we're not going to kill 14 people and put another 17 people in the hospital. Some of them in critical condition out here in San Bernardino. Horrible, horrifying, awful stuff. And what? Imagine how many people got affected by this rampage yesterday. Probably 300 or 400 people when you consider brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, friends. An enormous hit, to say nothing of the fear factor. What's at issue? Number one, we've got the Second Amendment. When would the Second Amendment come in? The Second Amendment to the Constitution came into play at the end of the 18th century, when you know what kind of guns we had? We had a muzzle load. It took 5 minutes to load the damn thing, and then, unless I was this close to somebody, I couldn't hit him. It was impossible. We're not dealing with a muzzle load that takes 5 minutes to load. We're dealing with automatic weapons that are just bang, 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 and like that you can kill 12, 14 people. Horrible stuff. So, what's my pitch? If you want a cause, get on a bandwagon to get these guns outlawed and to do something about the Second Amendment, okay? Sorry for the preaching. Just...
All right, so if you want a cause, because everybody knows college kids love causes, do something about these dreaded guns and this awful Second Amendment. Because come on, kids, when the Second Amendment was envisioned and when it was created, we were dealing with musket loaders. It took 6 minutes to shoot one. Now you can shoot 6 people in a minute. It's evil. It's terrible. It has to be done away with. What this nozzle doesn't want to understand is that Second Amendment is part of the reason why he can stand up there and say the drivel that he just did. Even though you and I both know that if you go through his particular university's handbook, he probably violated about 6 or 7 different policies. Do you think anything is going to happen to him? No. Why? Because college is not a place any longer where you are allowed to have free thought. They want you indoctrinated. They're now working on indoctrinating you basically from kindergarten, and if you go through college, all the way through your senior year in college. Because the more they can spoon feed you with everything that they think you need to know, the more likely you are to go along to get along when it's time for you to actually figure out what it means to be an adult. This is one reason why they want the participation trophy crowd, because anybody who doesn't understand that sometimes you learn more from failure than you do from success is going to be so afraid of failing that all they're going to do is keep everything between the lines. They're not going to think outside the box. They're not going to do anything crazy because they don't want to fail, because they don't understand that your life isn't over just because you fail. We are killing part of what made this country what it is. The freedom, the ability to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to start a company. I don't know what's going to happen with it. I don't know where it's going to go. But by God, I'm going to do it. And if I make it, great. And if I fall on my face, great. Guess what, folks? I am involved in starting 3 separate businesses right now, most of which revolve around media, broadcasting, or consulting firms. I'm involved in every single one of those things. Do I know how any of them are going to go? No. Did it stop me? No. You know why? Because I've already built businesses before. I have tried, I have failed, I have tried, and I have succeeded. The difference is you learn more from the attempt than you ever do from the success. And that's part of what we're drumming out of our society with this complete need to not understand what failure is, and this complete instant gratification society that we've created by keeping everything boxed into 55 minutes or less on a TV show and food on a tray in 4 minutes or less, or you're not satisfied. Because the problem is, when it takes you no longer than 55 minutes to 4 minutes to get anything that you need or want done, what do you do with the rest of your time? Nobody wants to take the time to do anything and do it right anymore, because by God, if I can't have it in 5 minutes, it ain't worth it. That's part of the problem. These are the underlying problems that are going on in our society today that no one is addressing. Everybody's looking at the symptoms, not the problems. The symptoms are the gun violence. The symptoms are the protests. But nobody's talking about why these things are happening. They're just, oh my God, look at all these disillusioned youths because they're upset because they have to pay so much for their college loans. No, they didn't have to. They chose to because they had to go to some school with a big name in front of it. You know what? I went to a junior college to get the majority of my credits done. Like a lot of other folks that I know, and because of that, I don't have college debt because I worked my tail end off when I was in college because I had to. It's all about your choices. The simple fact of the matter is too many people think that if I just throw a big enough fit when this is all said and done, I'm going to be able to get everything that I want and they'll make the rest of it go away. It's happening everywhere now because it's how our children are being parented. They're being taught if they scream long enough and they scream loud enough, they're going to get whatever they want eventually. And it's starting to run rampant through our entire society. If you don't believe me, rewind back to the Michael Brown incident for a moment. You know, the guy that thought if he screamed and yelled loud enough at a cop, the cop would go away. The kid wound up dead. You want to know who I blame for that? It's not the cop. I blame Mike Brown. You want to know who else I blame, though? His parents, because they were the ones that taught him that if I scream and yell loud enough and long enough, eventually they're going to cave in and give me what I want. And then that's what he thought he could do with the rest of society. This is what we're teaching people, but we don't understand it when we're doing it. This is what we teach children when we give them participation trophies for picking their nose. They think no matter what I do, I don't even have to try and I get rewarded. So, I mean, what type of message are we sending our children? And then you have guys like this nozzle who target the NRA, all because somebody got a hold of an AK-74, which in California is pretty much illegal anyway. But we have something about that I want to play in a second too, because you know there's been some interesting developments about that recently, ones that I thought you guys might find interesting, because you know San Bernardino is all in like Illinois and stuff where they don't have strict gun laws, because you know according to Senator Barbara Boxer, strict gun laws work in California, but let's let her say it so we can all point and laugh together.
Sensible gun laws work. We've proven it in California, and we're not going to give up. Sensible gun laws work. We've proven it in California, and we're not going to give up.
Sensible gun laws work. We've proven it in California, and we're not going to give up. Her words, not mine, you know, but, you know, it's too bad the folks in San Bernardino, Ohio, didn't have sensible gun laws. I mean, seriously, did she not? I mean, San Bernardino, I mean, I know I'm in flyover country. Our education system ain't that great out here, at least according to all you city slickers. But, you know, last I checked, San Bernardino is in California. So if those strict gun laws are working so well for you, madam, what happened? What happened? Your strict gun laws work in California. We've proven it. Oh my God. San Bernardino must have magically teleported to Nevada. Go figure. Maybe gun laws don't really work the way we think they're going to work. Anybody ever think of why that might be? Because you can't put the genie back in the bottle. You're not ever going to fully be able to get rid of guns. And even if you try, there's going to be things that are going on like in Great Britain right now, where they are putting laws on the books to ban knives. Because now their knife violence is out of control because people don't have ready access to guns. Am I saying that that's worse or better? No. What I'm saying is, what are we going to do eventually? Ban everything? Are we going to go back to pointy sticks and rocks to solve differences? Because, you know, last I checked, the very first murder was committed with a rock. You know, for those of you not familiar with the book of Genesis, I'm just saying. Hey, it's Sunday. I'm allowed to talk about the Bible on Sunday, I think. It's my show, so I'm going to do what I want. Anyway, so it's my show. I do what I want. Sorry. It's early. I've had lots of caffeine already. I'm a little hyper. Bear with me. All right. So, but, you know, now, just to go back to the complete drooling idiocy of indoctrination in our country, because we're changing gears, you know, we're starting to talk about the whole ISIS thing, because, as of now, and I have a clip that I'll play maybe in a minute that actually says this, but, the assistant director of the California, or the FBI field office in California, actually admitted Friday that this is terrorism now. So, again, like I said earlier, it's nice to know that for those of you like me that have more than 2 brain cells to rub together, the idiots in the government are finally getting on the same page with the rest of us. But here's what scares me about all of it is you listen to the mainstream media and what they had to say shortly after this event. I don't know about you, but at this point, I'm really starting to scratch my head about these people. Do we really have any honest journalists left? Listen to this and then you be the judge.
Are we mature enough as a country to look in the mirror and say we have a gun problem? A 12-step program starts with you got to acknowledge you have a problem. Are we mature enough to acknowledge that?
Then what could it be?
It could be some right-wing group, for all I know.
And attacking a government function. If it's county employees having some type of a banquet there, that takes on more of a domestic militia group, an anti-government domestic militia group wanting to attack the government.
Well, we can tell you that the Planned Parenthood, actually, of San Bernardino is only a few blocks away. We know how to fix it. Congress resolutely refuses to do it. But I think
that the president also, showing signs of the frustration we've seen from him so many times. He spoke at the funeral for the victims in Charleston. He spoke out in Washington State. He has spoken after Sandy Hook, always coming out calling for more measures to make it more difficult for people to have access to kind of weapons that can pull off these kind of mass shootings. It's been one of the great frustrations of his presidency.
Some may be aware of the fact that we have a no-fly list where people can't get on planes, but those same people who we don't allow to fly could go into a store right now in the United States and buy a firearm, and there's nothing that we can do to stop them.
In a situation like this, very often the perpetrators intend to commit, murder or suicide by cops. So whether or not there are armed guards there, it's not going to make any difference.
Does this go back to our revolution? We're revolutionary people. We really don't believe in government.
This was a holiday party. Maybe it was called a Christmas party. I mean, there's so many potential triggers here.
And there's always that voice that comes out and says, oh, this particular fix wouldn't have done anything about it, so let's do nothing. Yeah. And that bystander voice is a voice of evil. Shooters are evil, but people who stand by and do nothing and say nothing can be done to fix problems, that's a voice of evil too.
All right, so let all that sink in for a second. I mean, here's the thing. The media was beside themselves, hoping and praying that the folks that did this attack were going to be white Christians. Not only were they hoping and praying it, they were announcing it was so before they knew it was so, or whether it was or it wasn't so. And then when that didn't really start holding water, they were like, well, maybe it was an anti-government group because, that those are government employees. Hey, there's a Planned Parenthood 500 miles down the road in Nevada. Maybe that's why they attacked here in California. I mean, obviously there's one about 3 miles away from there. But, I'm pretty sure if they had planned on attacking a Planned Parenthood, they probably would have attacked a Planned Parenthood. Then you've got the whole workplace violence crowd because, God knows we can't ever admit when something is terrorism in this country. Somebody blows up a bunch of stuff in Paris and all of a sudden we're like, oh, pray for Paris. Somebody starts shooting up a building in America. Workplace violence. Workplace violence. What? IEDs? What IEDs? Body armor? There was body armor? Are you sure? I thought he was just going after people with a baseball bat because I thought he got mad and found one of those in a closet and just said, screw it. I'm going to take you with me before I go out because I'm so tired of dealing with you and the fact that you're burning the popcorn in the microwave every 5 minutes. That's workplace violence. Somebody does something that drives you crazy and you just go off. Maybe they're heating up fish in the break room. And all of a sudden you're like, you know what, I've had enough. I'm gonna bring this little box cutter from my house, and the next time Joe from accounting puts fish in the microwave, I'm gonna shank him. That's workplace violence. Sorry if anybody knows anybody by the name of Joe from accounting who puts fish in a microwave. I'm not advocating that you shank him. I'm just trying to make a point. That's workplace violence. Body armor, heavy weaponry, Improvised explosive devices, large groups of people coming in and out of a home all day and night. The fact that he was actually on the phone with known terrorists before he committed these atrocities. The fact that they had cameras on their vests so that they could record what they were doing and hopefully get it back to the terrorists for use with propaganda. The fact that shortly after this happened, a known terrorist group put on Twitter, 3 lions have made us proud today. And you guys want to try to tell me for 36 hours everybody was saying, oh, it can't be terrorism, it's not terrorism. He was triggered because it was a Christmas party. The evil Christmas party did him in. He'd had enough, man. Come on. Would you please take a second to dissect this guy? Because according to you, the liberal media and the liberal pundits and the liberal everybody else, this should be the guy who was the poster child, because you keep the poster child for the American dream, because you keep saying if we just find them jobs and we make them feel comfortable, they won't want to attack us. This guy was an American citizen working a government job, making $70,000 a year. He had enough time off to be able to take at least a month to go to Saudi Arabia to get his new wife, and you're telling me, by your logic, this never should have happened, which is why you wanted it to be workplace violence. You needed it to be workplace violence because it doesn't fit your narrative. Because we can't do away with terrorism by finding them jobs, because most of them don't even want jobs. They don't understand how our economy works because they're used to goat farming and worse things with goats. Just saying. Okay, so I'm being a little bad this morning. Bear with me. All right, so anyway. The point I'm trying to make here is you can rationalize this all you want. You can try to say that it isn't what it is all you want, but it doesn't change anything. We have now had another terrorist attack on our soil. Does anybody remember when we promised ourselves that was never going to happen? And how many times has it happened now? Because we have become part of the go-along-to-get-along crowd. The fact that we can't call things the way that we see them. And I'm not telling you that every single Muslim is a terrorist. What I am telling you is there is a large number of those people that want to kill us. And I'm going to say the same thing that I say pretty much every time I'm on the air. You have a bowl of M&Ms in front of you. There's 300 of them in the bowl. You know 10 of them are poison. Do you hand the M&M bowl to your children and tell them to start munching? Or do you throw them out because you don't know which one of them will kill your children? It's a pretty simple concept, but for some reason the logic is lost on the liberal mind, and I don't understand it. We have the same policies when it comes to our food. When there's a bad test of a batch, we throw the whole thing out because we don't know how much of that batch might actually be tainted, and it's better to be safe than sorry. Why can we not extend the same mindset to our border security? I'm sorry, Fahid, you might be a great person, but there's too many people that look exactly like you and act exactly like you that are secretly wanting to kill us. So until you can provide me some sort of proof that you're not going to be one of these guys that wants to kill us, you need to go back where you came from. Feel free to come back later. Let's do some more extensive background checks, because God knows apparently the background checks that we have don't work. Because this guy's wife was put through the same screening process that the president swears up and down we can use to make sure that none of these people that ISIS has told us that they're going to put in with these refugees, those were air quotes in case you didn't miss them. I typically accent the word as I'm doing the air quotes, so instead of refugees it was refugees. Because the simple fact of the matter is we were told we have a screening process that is nearly infallible. Same screening process was used on this dude's wife. Shortly before the incident, she's pledging allegiance to ISIS on social media, and somehow we missed it because we have such a great screening process. I tell folks, I don't understand what, I mean, do we need to draw the government a map at this point to make them understand that these people do not like us? This is not a new development. This sect of the Muslim religion has been trying to kill us since the 1800s. Seriously, go back and look at the history. The first references to the Muslims, back then they were called Musliman. They're all through our history. Before that, there were the Crusades. You know, everybody talks about how evil and bad the Christians were because of the Crusades. The Crusades were not the Christians trying to be complete buttheads. The Crusades were the Christian response to Muslim aggression spreading throughout the world. It really is just about that simple. And I know nobody wants to hear it, but the simple fact of the matter is there is a large segment of that population that wants us dead because they think that we are evil. You cannot rationalize with evil. That's how they see it. That's how I see it. The simple fact of the matter is, to us, they're evil. To them, we're evil. So how do you change the mindset? Can you change the mindset? Because obviously, opening our doors to them, helping them find great jobs, probably had a pretty nice house from the looks of the pictures, had a wife, had a child, living the American dream, right? And yet, when the time came, he still pulled the trigger. When the time came, he still pulled the trigger. How many other people like these three do we have under our noses right now? How many? How many more people have to die before we realize, unlike this idiot at UC, that this problem is not going to be solved by gun control? It's not going to be solved by removing all the guns, because you know what's happening in Britain? Now they have Muslims stabbing people to death and hacking them up and chopping off their heads. Let's face it, the Muslims really don't care very much for using guns unless they're just going for shock value. Because most of the time, their weapon of choice is a nice sharp sword, because if you don't convert to Muslim or Islam, you die, and they separate your head from your body. You know, there's a part of a book that typically only gets really talked about on Sundays that mentions times like this when these things were going to start happening, and they were going to start happening worldwide. It's called the Book of Revelations. If you haven't read it in a while, I do suggest that you open it up. If you have, I suggest you go back and read through it again anyway. Because I'm not saying that we're in the last days, but I'm saying we're probably pretty close. And how am I going to combat it other than what I do here every single day on the radio and in articles and public speaking when people ask me to come talk? The same way I always do, by hitting my knees. When you don't know what else to do, prayer is a very powerful weapon. And it's one of the biggest tools in our arsenal. I don't know what God's plans are for this country any longer. I don't know if we've turned so far away from Him that at this point we need to be removed to bring about whatever it is that He needs to have done. I don't know. What I do know is that we have gone so dark already that if something doesn't change, with the way we now have colleges that are indoctrinating to the point where people are becoming fascists, at some point, when we go dark, and we will go dark, we're going to make Nazi Germany look like a bunch of Girl Scouts. And the thing that terrifies me, and like I said, we'll have to pick this up again next week because we're about out of time. The thing that terrifies me, and this was brought up to me not yesterday, but Friday. The thing that terrifies me is that this incident and these rise in terrorist attacks are probably going to be what not only propel Trump to get the nomination, but also eventually the White House. And I will tell you, after seeing the way he talks to people and about people, he's the last person that we need as president of the United States in a time like this, because he will be one of the biggest catalysts to pushing us to go even further dark than we already are. Sorry to be a downer at the end, folks. We will pick this up where we left off next week because we've still got about half the content to get through. And then, of course, I'm sure there'll be other things that we'll need to talk about by then. In case you do enjoy following along, again, you can follow me on Twitter at AOTR_host. You can pick me up on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Rowdy Ricky Robinson. You can also communicate with me via email if you're old school, which is fine because I'm old school sometimes too. There's two email addresses you can use. Rick at K98talk.org, where I am the general manager over there, so I typically get lots of emails at that one. Or you can shoot me one at Ricky at thesparkradionetwork.com, which is the network that I am building. All right, folks, I am going to have to get out of here to make room for the show that's coming on right behind me. Again, I do hope everybody has a great, safe, happy rest of the weekend, and keep your powder dry, because at some point you're probably going to need it. All right, this is Rick Robinson. I'm out of here, folks.